What remains? Both of my grandmothers spent their final days in my parents' house, and, as it turns out, they both chose the same bedroom to call home for their last chapter. I know what you're thinking. Should my parents ever decide to sell that house, I do not want to be the realtor tasked with explaining this particular detail to potential buyers. But in true family fashion, we handled it the way we handle most things, with humor that borders on inappropriate. The guest bedroom is now officially known as the Glory Suite. There's a plaque on the wall that reads, "Welcome to the Glory Suite. Not responsible for final destination." To this day, watching my parents explain that to unsuspecting overnight guests before sending them off to bed never gets old. Jokes aside, both of my grandmothers were extraordinary women who shaped me in ways I'm still discovering. My Granny Barry came to live with us when I was a sophomore in high school. She was quiet, reserved, and navigating the long goodbye of dementia. And yet, somehow, she remained a delight to be around. She loved folding laundry with my mom, a fact I appreciated deeply since it meant I no longer had to. Granny Barry was also a master storyteller. Hours could pass as she recounted life on a Pennsylvania farm or tales of her children growing up, including my dad, who, according to her, deserved absolutely no editorial mercy. As a young man, he had a rebellious streak and a motorcycle. One night, angry at everything and nothing in particular, he took off west to visit his siblings without telling anyone. He eventually rolled back into Bluefield at 2 a.m. Granny Barry didn't scold. She didn't lecture. She quietly made him something to eat and sent him to bed. No theatrics. No I told you so. Just steady, loving strength, the kind that teaches more by example than words ever could. Her favorite pastime, though, was games. Chinese checkers mostly, with the occasional round of Yahtzee. The rules were flexible. 5 rolls in Yahtzee? Sure. Head-scratching checkerboard maneuvers? Absolutely. At 90, she had earned the right to play however she wanted, and honestly, it made losing all the more fun. Sometimes I'd stay home with her so my parents could get a little break from caregiving. We'd pull out the board, and without fail, she'd wipe the floor with me every single time. I like to think she was building my character. She attended church whenever the doors were open, right up until the night she passed. Sundays were long for her, and she usually came home from evening services and went straight to bed. That night was different. Instead of turning in early, she stayed up with us. 2 bowls of ice cream later, she was sitting at the table, laughing and talking, soaking in the ordinary joy of being together. She lingered longer than usual, not saying much, just letting the conversation envelop her and smiling in that knowing way she had when she was enjoying herself, but didn't want to make a production of it. Nothing about the night felt dramatic. No speeches, no final words, just the steady rhythm of spoons against bowls and conversation drifting in and out. If we had known it was the last ordinary evening, we might have tried to make it extraordinary. I'm grateful we didn't. The next morning, she woke up with Jesus. I like to think she stayed up on purpose, giving us one last sweet, unremarkable, perfect memory. And in true Granny Barry fashion, she left us laughing, full of love, and reminded us that joy, not fear, is what comes next. My Granny Kessler could not have been more different. She was larger than life, the life of the party, honest in a way that bordered on alarming. Subtlety was not her gift. As an adult, her most common greeting to me was a big hug followed by some version of, "I see your shoulders haven't gotten any smaller." Correct, Granny, they have not. She never meant anything by it. That was just her. She noticed everything, said it out loud, and then laughed as if to say, well, there it is. You couldn't really be offended. She'd already hugged you and moved on. In her later years, dementia complicated things for her, too. I was away from home by then, chasing dreams and building a life, but whenever I could, I'd come back for weekends when Mom would bring her over to the house for a few days. She had a deeply confusing relationship with my old Bichon Gracie. One minute she'd be doting, petting her, smiling, calling her a cute little dog. Gracie would bring her a toy, Granny would throw it. The next minute, Gracie would return and be met with, "Oh, get out of here, dog, don't waste it on me." Gracie tried to be polite, but was clearly unsettled by the mixed signals. But music, that was different. Granny loved to sing. Old hymns, classic country, anything with a melody. Even after her stroke, when words were hard to come by, music still found its way out. One weekend, while Mom and Dad were away at my dad's high school reunion, my sister, my nieces, and I stayed with her for the evening. She loved hearing us play the piano, and before long we had an impromptu concert. I started filming, which only escalated things. She sang, she danced, she knew she had an audience. It was one of the last times I remember her fully in performance mode before her stroke. I still watch those videos sometimes. They remind me that long after memory fades, long after language fails, what's been planted deep tends to remain. Faith, joy, praise. Hymns learned by heart don't disappear easily. They live somewhere beyond recall. Her voice wasn't strong by then. It wavered, lost lyrics, found them again. But when the melody took over, something in her steadied. The words she couldn't summon in conversation came back in song. Even in her confusion, I believe God was still meeting her there, carrying the part she could no longer hold herself. Looking back now, it strikes me that both of my grandmothers, so different in temperament, humor, and expression, shared the same quiet certainty. Faith was not something they performed. It was something they lived. It showed up in steady presence, in song, in laughter, in ice cream at the kitchen table, in strength that didn't need to announce itself. Both of them finished their stories in the same room. Different voices, same faith. And somehow, even as memory faded and words fell away, what mattered most remained. Not because their bodies were strong, not because their memories held, but because what had been planted deepest was never dependent on either.